And welcome back to Subculture After Dark. Well, we know that you guys fell in love with Patriarchs in Black with their debut album, Reach for the Scars. Well, there is a brand new album on the way called My Veneration, and we want to know a little bit more about this album, so we thought we would actually get Dan from the band on the phone right now. Welcome to the program, mate.
David, glad you're having me, man. I appreciate it.
No problem at all. Now, mate, like I said when I interviewed you about the first album, we fell in love with that album straight away, and this next album is even better. Tell us a little bit about what you guys were aiming to do with this album when you first sat down to work with it.
Well, there's really, all you want to do is write what comes from your heart. I don't know if I had any agenda. Just write things that I enjoy, and then I send it off to Johnny Kelly after I write something, and if he likes it, he plays the drums to it. But I just want to make a great album that's heavy and also diverse, and I don't want to limit myself. I mean, obviously, we're not going to do. I was going to say we're not going to do rap, but we had DMC from Run DMC do a song with us. But just a diverse, heavy album is what I'm looking to do.
Now, I'm going to ask you a little bit about DMC later, but what kind of things did you find were inspiring you when you sat down to work on this one? Were there different things, the world around you, the emotions you were going through? What kind of things were inspiring the music that you were writing?
I can't say that I never need to be inspired to write music. Like, honestly, when Reach for the Scars was about to come out last July, I wrote the song, I wrote the music to My Veneration a month before it came out. So when I pick up a guitar, I don't play that often, but more often than not, I'll write a little something. It might not be a whole song, but it might just be a little riff that I like, and then I record it either on my phone or on my, I have a small recording unit upstairs in my loft, and if I like it the next day, I keep it in the bank of riffs, and sometimes, like with My Veneration, the title track, I wrote something in my head, and then I played on the bass, and I really liked it, and then I wrote another part right away, and then this song kind of sat around a little bit, and then I was going through some of my old riffs, and I heard what became the music to underneath the chorus of My Veneration. But I don't know whether I'm sad, happy, if the world's going crazy or the world is calm. I don't know that I really need inspiration to write. I just write when I pick up a guitar.
It sounds like you guys didn't feel any pressure with this album. Like, some people might have thought that there was a little bit of pressure after the debut was so well received. Did you feel any pressure, or did you just go with your heart?
Yeah, just go with my heart. I mean, there's really no pressure because we're such a small band, and thanks to people like you, David, you help us get out there a little bit. But it's not like we're, Guns N' Roses working on the Spaghetti Incident or whatever record that was called, where there's these expectations of selling 5 million records. So I don't really feel any pressure. If there's any pressure, it's only the pressure I put on myself, that I want to kind of have the record wrapped up within 6 months, because I'm dealing with like literally 7 different singers. The only constants are myself on guitar and Johnny Kelly on drums. Yeah. And then you got to, I hand the song to a bunch of different singers, and nobody came up with a melody line I was happy with for the title track, My Veneration. So then I started writing one, and I'm super happy with it. And I can't say there's pressure because it's so far underground, and it's not like, if the record bombs, my wife isn't going to leave me, or I'm not going to have to sell my house. So there's really no pressure.
So tell us a little bit about the artists that you chose to work with on this album. Like you said, they are so varied. People like Carl, and you've got Eric J. Morgan on there, and of course DMC, as you mentioned before. They're so varied. Tell us a little bit about how you go about picking which artists you want to work with.
Well, most of them were either my friends or Johnny's friends. Like, Johnny's tight with Eric J. Morgan, the bass player from A Pale Horse Named Death. Or I've been friendly with Dave Niebuhr from Dog Eat Dog for many, many years. So it's more like just, hey, you want to do something, you find somebody, like, obviously for singers, you have to like their voice. And I love Carl's voice, I wish he could have done more on the record. I mean, I really... he's just so busy lately, but I wanted actually Carl to sing the title track at one point, but he's been so busy. But then we found a guy who, when I was recording, my engineer, this guy named J-Rod in Pomona, New York, he played me some music, and the singer blew me away. I'm like, who is that? And he's like, it's this guy named Kelly Abe. And I'm like, does he ever done anything? He's like, well, he was on a TV show called, I think it was called Search for the Next Ozfest. So then, you just reach out to these people and you say, would you want to sing on a song? And it's amazing that everybody's like, yes, yes, yes. Nobody said how much money. They all just want to do it. So it's really like that. That's the really nice thing about it, is that we didn't have to beg anybody to do it. If they're on it, they wanted to be on it,
Yeah. Now, you mentioned before about doing things differently. DMC, where did the idea come about to bring him on board for a track? And like you said, everyone says yes, but what was his approach like when you asked him, do you want to do this?
Well, DMC and I met only maybe less than a year ago when I was asked to play on Tom Hunting, the drummer from Exodus. He put out a solo record of cover songs. And in the middle of one of the cover songs, they got DMC to do a rap. But there was no music underneath it, and they felt it needed a guitar. So the guy who did the video, this guy named Craig Cifola in Florida, he asked me if I could write a guitar riff underneath it. So I'm like, yeah, let me try something. And I don't normally write like that where the music is first or where the vocals are first. And I wrote something. I'm like, this is pretty cool. They're going to like this. And then I sent it to them and they flipped out. And then we did a video and DMC told me how much he loved what I wrote. And I'm like, dude, I'd be honored if you would, do something with any of my originals. So I sent him a couple originals. And he's like, yeah, this is all great, but it's like it's not exact. Nothing's hitting me as right. And then when I sent him the first single, Veneration, he's like, oh my God, he's like, I want to do something on this. So at that same time, my old drummer from Nonfiction, I was in a band called Nonfiction in the early '90s. My old drummer Mike Christie turned me on to this guy Sunshine, who used to open up for us. And I remember him as always being a good singer and really out there, really artsy. And then he played me some of the stuff he did with Unita, and I'm like, this guy's amazing. So we had Sunshine sing on a cover of Immigrant Song after like 4 other singers gave it a go, and we just couldn't get anybody to hit those high notes and do what we were looking for. And then Sunshine ended up on the song Veneration as well, and he's actually on track number 2 on the album, which is really emotional song, Show Them Your Power. It's basically about his fiance dying. Like, she was literally dying when he wrote the lyrics and melody, and then she died. I'm like, oh my God, that's so sad, number 1. But number 2, he's not going to be able to record the vocals because he's probably going to be too destroyed. And he did the vocals like 2 days later, and he said it was the most emotional thing he ever did in his life. So I kind of believe like everything happens for a reason, David.
Yeah.
And everything just worked out. Everything just clicked.
Yeah. Having guests on board like that, there must be a special moment for you when the track comes back to you, because with most bands, you're there in the studio, you hear it as it's actually being recorded. But is there like a little bit of a surprise for you when you sit down to listen to what comes back to you when you've handed it off to a guest?
That's a great question, David, and you're absolutely right, because there's sometimes, like I said, for the cover track Immigrant Song, that the Led Zeppelin cover we did, 3 different singers sent us what they did, and we're like, okay. And then I'm like, to my wife or to Johnny, I'm like, what do you think? Like, they're like, yeah, you don't want to release that. I'm like, I didn't think so. So it's like I'm always kind of expecting to be disappointed, and then if I am disappointed, you have to have the horrible situation of somebody you're friendly with and say, look, man, we're not going to use what you did.
Yeah.
But everything on the record, of course, we were happy with. But I think it's stressful when there's somebody does something that you don't like that you're not going to have on the record. That's the only time it becomes stressful, or not even stressful, I guess uncomfortable. But yeah, I open up these tracks, the singers, when they send them back, like you said, with great anticipation.
You mentioned the cover there of Immigrant Song. You guys have got some great covers. Tell us a little bit about how you made those choices of which tracks you wanted to cover.
Well, it's just songs Johnny and I love, and Johnny and I were thinking about doing I Stole Your Love by Kiss, and around that same time I saw a kid dressed up as Paul Stanley, singing like Paul Stanley, and his hair went on fire, and he just kept singing and playing. And I'm like, this is amazing. The guy sings just like, I thought it was Paul Stanley. And then I find out it's some guy named Bobby Jensen. And I sent him a DM thinking like, man, this guy's, got a viral video. He's not going to write back to me. Next day he writes back, I'm in, you know? So it's like I said, it all just, things like that just kept happening where
Yeah.
it wasn't planned. There was no big, planning. It just, everything just seems to work out, Um, and I don't know if it's luck or good karma or what, David, but it just, everything seemed to just work out.
Now, I know that our listeners out there are going to fall in love with this album. Have you guys ever got any plans to do a one-off show or anything like that? Like, what are your plans after the album comes out?
So the thing is, Johnny Kelly's in Quiet Riot, and they play just about every weekend. And obviously, to do a show where you have 7 different singers and 7 different bass players, I mean, you could get away with maybe 2 or 3 or 4 singers, but it's difficult. As much as I would love to tell you, hey man, we're coming down and we're going to tour Australia, it's so hard because there's like, between the 2 albums, there's like 18 different people on it. And like I said, the only constant's me on guitar and Johnny on drums. So it's very difficult because everybody lives so far away from one another. But nothing would make me happier than being able to do a couple one-off shows.
Well, mate, we are a little bit disappointed that we're not going to get any shows, but at the same time, we perfectly understand, and we are going to love this album. It's going to be, I think this is going to be one of the albums that we keep on playing right through the Australian summer, because we're heading into summer at the moment. So, mate, congratulations on the album. Thank you so much for chatting to us. But to finish off, what would you like to say to people who are about to sit down and take a listen to the album on October 6th?
Well, I would first of all thank them so much, and the CD is going to be on MDD Records. We don't have a vinyl deal yet for this one. We got a vinyl deal on Faster Louder Records for Reach for the Scars, but just, I'm hoping people will check it out, whether you like my old band Nonfiction or Johnny's old band Typo Negative or Danzig. I think the record's really diverse. It's called Patriarchs In Black, My Veneration. My name is Dan Lorenzo. I've been in also a band called Cassius King, Vessel of Light, that I hope they check out. But I'm really excited about Patriarchs in Black, My Veneration, as you said, out October 6th. And Mr. Griffiths, I appreciate you doing this.